and strenuous make your study. Loose all earlier ties. Live as befits a monk. Robed in yellow dress, by razor-shaved head, and alms fed. Be not glad for pastimes, nor to lengthened slumbers be addicted. Contemplate, O Khuddhaka. Concentrate, conquer, O Khuddhaka. Make you adept in the path to sure salvation leading. Have you won the ultimate purification? You shall reach the going out, as flame in water. Light of feeble ray is as a wind-torn creeper. So do you, clansmen of Indra, clutching nothing. Shake off Mara. Cleansed of passion for sensations. Wait your hour, even here in holy peaceful living. Thus aided by the Lord's discourse to win the Nibbana in which is no residual base of rebirth, the Thera developed insight and attained arahantship. Thereafter he uttered the verses as taught by the Lord in confessing Anna. Thera. Migajala. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Migajala. Reborn in this Buddha age at Savatthi as a son of the great lay lady Visakha, he would often go to the vihara to hear the path. Finally he entered the monk's order, and in due course won arahantship. Confessing Anna he said, well taught it is by him who sees all. The Buddha, offspring of the sun's high race. Through it all bonds are bygone things, through it all constant rolling on is raised away. It leads on and out, it bears over. Through it the root of craving withers up. Cutting the poison root, our tragic doom. It brings us to evil's utter end. By severing the root of ignorance, it breaks in pieces Kama's living car. It hurls the bolt of insight on the goods that dour consciousnesses at rebirth. The truth beneath all our sentience laying bare, and from all fevered grasping setting free. Revealer it is to us, by knowledge given, of rebirth as a fiery pit of coals, of mighty properties, far-reaching, deep, averter of decay and death to come. Such is the Aryan, the eightfold path, healer of all ill, auspicious, blessed. Action it knows, what the act did mean, and fruit of action as the fruit indeed. Showing a vision by the light of truth, of things as come to be by way of cause. Yes, to the mighty shelter did it walk. High peace it brings and bliss lies at the end. Thus the Thera, showing in manifold ways the Aryan path, declared how he himself had followed it as declaration of Anna. Thera. Jenta priest's son. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Jenta. The priest's son. Reborn in this Buddha age at Savatthi as the son of the king of Kosala's priest, he was named Jenta. When grown up he became intoxicated with his advantages of birth, wealth, and position, despising where he should have honored, and stiff with pride. One day he approached the Lord, who was teaching in the midst of a great company, and bethought, if the Samana Gautama will first address me, I will also speak. I will not voluntarily address him. Thus the Exalted One not addressing him, and he through pride not speaking either, he showed the motive for his coming as he stood there. Him the Exalted One then addressed in a verse. To live on proud, vain fancies is not well. Cultivate, Brahman, that which profits. The good which you do seek in coming here. That, and that only should you live upon. Jenta thinking, he knows my thoughts, was greatly drawn to him, and fell at his feet, paying the highest degree of homage. And he asked the Lord, saying, for whom is one to cultivate no pride? Whom should one honor? Whom should one revere? To whom if one show reverence is it well? To him the Exalted One said, for mother and for father too, likewise. For eldest brother, for the teacher, for the Brahmin and for them of yellow robe. For these is one to cultivate no pride. These should one honor, these should one revere. To these if one show reverence it is well. The arahants peaceful, adept, sane, immune. For whom pride perished as they crossed the goal, to them beyond all others homage pay. Jenta by that teaching became a stream winner, entered the monk's order, and in due course won arahantship. Upon that, in celebrating his achievement, he thus declared: Anna, infatuated with my birth, my wealth, and influence, with the beauty of my form, intoxicated, thus I led my life. Overmuch I fancied none was like to me. A poor young fool, proud and spoilt, stubborn with pride, posing and impolite. Mother and father, and others too, claiming respect and honor, never one did I salute, discourteous, stiff with pride. Then saw I him the guide, leader supreme, the unmatched chief among drivers of mankind, in glory shining like the sun, with all the company of monks in following, throwing away conceit and wanton pride, a pious gladness filling all my heart. Lowly I rendered homage with the head to him among all creatures best and chief. Well eradicated now and put away is both false pride and hypocrisy. The what and that I am is broken in two. Yes, every form of self-conceit is killed. Thera. Sumna. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Sumna. Reborn in this Buddha age, he took birth in the family of a certain lay disciple who had become the lay attendant of the venerable Thera Anuruddha. Now that layman's children till then had died young. And the father said, if yet one more son is born to me, I will have him initiated into monkhood by the Thera. After 10 months a healthy boy was born to him, and accordingly, when the child was 7 years old, he was initiated into monkhood. And from the ripeness of his insight, it was not long before he acquired sixfold abhina, waiting the while upon the Thera. Taking a jar to fetch him water, Sumna through iti power came to the Nhataka lake. And a wicked serpent king, coiled about the lake, reared its great hood uprisen and would not allow him to get water. Then Sumna took the shape of a Garuda bird and overcame the serpent, and flew back with the water to the Thera. And the Lord, seated in Jeta grove, saw him as he went, and called Sariputta to see, praising him in the 4 verses below. Now Sumna, in testifying to Anna, added those verses to his own as follows. When newly made a monk 7 years old, by supernormal power I overcame the wondrous potence of the serpent king. When as I water for my teacher's use, from the great lake of Nhataka fetched me coming, thus the Lord saw and spoke. See, Sariputta, how the little lad, holding his jar of water, comes along, wrapped all his being, utterly intent, noble his carriage on his gracious quest, and well matured in supernormal power. This novice of our Anuruddha's band, by trainer of high breeding highly bred, by the proficient made thoroughly expert, by perfect competence made competent, by Anuruddha taught and disciplined, he having won the highest peace and good, and realized the influctuate, even he, this novice Sumna, would hide his power, and thus, let no man know me, did desire. Thera. Nhataka-Muni. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Nhataka-Muni. Reborn in this Buddha age at Rajagaha in a Brahmin clan, and well educated in Vedic wisdom, he became known by the mark and order of a graduate as Nhataka, the bath graduate. Becoming an ascetic, he lived in a forest glade 3 leagues from Rajagaha, living on wild rice and worshipping fire. Now the Lord, seeing the conditions of arahantship shining within his heart like a lamp in a jar, came to his hermitage. He, filled with pleasure because of that, placed before him food prepared in his own way. The Exalted One ate it. And so 3 days went by. On the 4th day the Exalted One said, You who are of such extreme delicacy, how can you support life on this food? And thus commenting on saintly content, he taught him the path. And the ascetic upon that from stream winner became arahant. The Exalted One confirmed him in that and went. But he, continuing to live there, fell ill of cramp. The Lord went, and with kindness asked after his health. You who down with cramping pains, lives in the jungle, in the woods, your range confined, in hardship dreadful, Tell me, Bhikkhu, how will you live? Then the Thera said. With bliss and rapture's flooding wave. This mortal frame is all suffused. Though hard and rough what I endure, yet will I in the jungle live. Wisdom's 7 branches practicing. The powers 5, the forces 2, wrapped to ethereal heights of thought. So will I in the jungle live. From all corrupting thoughts set free. With heart all pure and undefiled. Often to meditation given. So will I in the jungle live. And all the intoxicants that once, within, without, obsessed my life, hewn and thrown out are one and all. Never to rise for me again. The factors 5 are understood, persisting yet with severed root. The end of sorrow now is won. And all rebirth for me is done. Thera. Brahmadatta. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Brahmadatta. Reborn in this Buddha age at Savatthi, as a son of the king of Kosala, and named Brahmadatta. He witnessed the majesty of the Buddha at the Jeta Grove inauguration. Entered the monk's order because he believed, and in due course acquired 6-fold abhina, together with thorough grasp of the letter and meaning of the path. One day as he went round for alms, a Brahmin abused him. The Thera heard in silence and went on with his business. The Brahmin again reviled him, and people commented on the Thera's silence. Upon which Brahmadatta taught them, saying, from where rises wrath for him who void of wrath holds on the even tenor of his way. Self-tamed, serene, by highest insight free? Worse of the two is he who, when reviled, reviles again. Who did not, when reviled, revile again, a 2-fold victory wins. Both of the other and himself he seeks the good. For he the other's angry mood did understand and soothe, checking himself. Him who of both is the physician, since himself he heals and the other too. Folk deem a fool, they knowing not the path. Then the reviling Brahmin, hearing these words, was both distressed and glad of heart, and asked for the Thera's forgiveness. Yes, he took orders under him, and was taught the exercise of meditating on love towards others, the Thera thus arming him against obsession by anger. If anger rise in you, then think upon the figure of the saw. And if arise craving indulge yourself, remember you the parable of how they ate the child. If, lusting for new lives in heaven and earth, your heart run wild, oh check and curb it swift. By mindfulness, as it was the beast men find in young corn grazing trespasser, and bind. Thera. Sirimanda. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Sirima. Reborn in this Buddha age at Suang Sumarajara in a Brahmin family, he entered the monk's order through faith got on hearing the Lord teaching in the Basakala wood. One feast day, while he was seated where the Pimagha was to be recited at the end of the recitation of the introduction. For a fault when declared shall be light to him, he pondered on the advantage gained by the confession of faults concealed, and upon that exclaimed with eager interest and gladness. Oh, how utterly pure is the rule of the Lord! And so expanding insight he attained arahantship. Reviewing the course to that with a glad heart, he addressed the monks. Heavily falls the rain of guilt on fault concealed. Less heavy where the fault lies bare. By death the world is overcome much. By age and by decay it is shrouded and beset. Pierced by the dart of craving forever. By itch of pestering desires assailed. By death the world is held enslaved. By age and by decay escorted, guarded sure, without a refuge, everlastingly. Struck as by thief with bludgeon and with sword. Like forest fires see them drawing near. Death and disease, decay, dread trinity. Whom to confront no strength suffices, yes. No swiftness aught avails to flee away. Make you the day not futile, not in vain. Whether it be by little or by much. For every day and night that you do waste, by so much less your life remains to live. whether you walk or stand or sit or lie. For you the final day of life draws near. No time have you to comfort heedlessly. Thera. Sabakama. Adapted from the archaic translation by Mrs. Rhys Davids. Sabakama. Reborn in this Buddha age. After the Exalted One had passed away. At Vasali in a noble clan. And named Sabakama, he, when he was come of age, gave gifts and possessions to his family, and following his religious inclination left the world, taking orders under the treasurer of the path. In course of his studies he came back to Vasali with his instructor and visited his family. And his former wife, afflicted, lean, in sorry array and tears, greeted him and stood by. Seeing her thus, affection led by pity arose in him, and losing the deeper view in the present object, carnal feeling came over him. Then like a high-bred horse at the touch of the whip, anguish arose, and he departed to the charnel field to learn the lesson of foul things. By that Jhana supervening, he expanded insight and won arahantship. Now his father-in-law brought his daughter decked out once more in finery to the vihara, with a great no of attendants, seeking to make him secede, but the Thera declared to them how he had ejected all such desires as follows. This ugly thing, impure, foul-smelling, full of foul matter, ebbing thus and thus, is cherished as the chief of all our care. Hidden deer by craft, as fish by hook, as ape by pitch, so is the world entrapped. Sights, sounds and tastes, odors and things to touch. That pleasure and charm, the fivefold way of sense. All these are shown combined in woman's shape. The worldly people, who with heart inflamed pursue and woo her, fill the dreadful field of death and make accumulation of rebirth. But he who shuns it all, as with the foot the serpent's head is shunned, he, vigilant, did avoid this poisoner of the world. And I who evil saw in sense desires, and in renunciation safety, lo, detached from all that worldly aims commend, of all the intoxicants have made an end.